This video is going to talk about how to get your follow-up calls to show up. So I built 6 8-figure sales teams internally for our companies, aside from the thousands of clients that I've consulted in their sales teams over the past several years. And one thing I've always found true is closers who have the highest follow-up show rate are almost always the best closers on the team, especially as you get more to the B2B and multi-call process type of offers and businesses. So I'm going to give you 2 strategies to implement in this video. One is called open loops. Another one is diffusing pressure through framing. Now, one thing I want to say about this is these strategies only work if you've really gotten the basics right. What are the basics? Good rapport and energy, proper discovery. You've really cleared a clear gap. You've covered the 7 beliefs that I teach in other videos on this channel, like pay and doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust. The prospect has to be 100% clear on the offer. Again, confused prospects don't buy. They have to see it as the simultaneous explanation of why everything they tried in the past has failed and why this is going to be different. And most importantly, they have to be sold. Okay, I don't mean they're giving you actual, their credit card or sending you a wire or something. What I mean by sold is they're sold on the idea, they're sold on the plan, right? They're 100% certain that this is the right thing, now is the right time, right? Those are the key fundamentals. I would say that is the 20% that drives 80% of the results. But here's some good tactics that you can use as well. So we're going to talk about creating open loops. So in different videos on this channel, if you look at essentially any video that talks about financial objections on this channel, we cover the open wallet technique, right? That's where you isolate down a financial logistical objection. In other words, I 100% want to do it, but it's just money standing in the way. And then from there, essentially what we do is we say something like, gotcha. So, money aside, you're 100% in. Okay, perfect. Well, look, most of our clients do it up front. For certain clients, depending on their situation, who are like you, they really want to do it. It's just a matter of making it work financially. We break it up. So are you open to having an honest conversation financially, getting everything on the table so we could see if this is something we could do now, or at the very least, we can plan towards it in the future. And then they say, oh yeah, let's look into that. Then we go over net incoming cash in the next 30 days, cash on hand, and credit, okay? Different video to cover that whole thing. But what we want to do is we want to lay out basically what their financials are, okay? So we covered how to handle that. Now, knowing that, generally what we do is we only present the pay in full option price first, right? And then we get into that if it's a financial objection. Now, there's sometimes, though, where you're going to identify finances aside, if finances might not even be an objection, or they're just not in a place where we could even kind of talk about that yet because they're not closable on this call, right? So in situations where, let's say they have a partner who really needs to get involved, or this is the sales director, the next call is going to be with the CEO, or, finances aren't an obstacle whatsoever, and they just really want to sleep on it or take a few days or do some research, whatever, and you just can't overcome it for whatever reason, right? So in those cases, what we could do is we could use payment plans and payment terms as open loops to ensure they follow up, right? So again, we're not going to do this with the financial logistical objection I just gave in the beginning. I just wanted to reference that. We're doing this when you kind of know there's no way they're going to close for a logistical reason, usually because of somebody else or a buying process thing on this first call, okay? So here's how it's going to look, right? What I said probably made a little bit of sense. This will make a lot of sense. So let's say they want to sleep on it, all right? So you pitch the pay in full price. They have no issues with price, but they want to sleep on it. You would say something like, no issue at all, diffuse the pressure. Totally good with you sleeping on it. So just to clarify, so I can stay organized on my end. If we schedule a time tomorrow and you wake up tomorrow feeling the same exact way you feel right now, then we're 100% processing the payment moving forward. They say yes. Okay, great. Well, look, let's get that time booked for tomorrow. Then you schedule the time. And then this is what you do. You say, hey, and one last thing, I'll go over for you tomorrow a few ways we could potentially break up the payment financially to make it a little bit easier on you. I'm already 5 late for my next appointment, so we'll go over those options then. Is that cool? So the other thing is too, so you see how I created the open loop, right? And I'll talk about the theory of why this works on the next slide. But you can also do this, like let's say you have the follow-up set. Now that you've done this, you can text, you could almost recover the follow-up and text them and be like, hey, well, let's still keep our follow-up. I want to go over with you the payment options that I brought up over last time. And usually you can recover canceled follow-ups this way as well. Real quick, and then we'll get back to the video. If you need help with any of these 3 things, either installing a lead acquisition internally in your business, you need new sales reps, and you want sales reps recruited done for you, and also get the sales consulting and sales management help that comes with that, or if you just want overall business strategies of how you can scale to 8 figures or beyond, go to the link in the description, click that link, check out the video, and then book a call with our team. We'd love to help you with any of those 3 things. Now back to the video. Here's the kind of theory on this, all right? As long as you still have information to provide, you're still going to be in control of the sales process. All right. Once you've given away all the information, you really have no value as a salesperson. Like, you have no leverage. I don't really like the word leverage because it makes it feel like you're doing something to the person, like you have leverage over them. That's not really what it is. It's just that, like, you know, what the value you have to the prospect is information and clarity and leadership, really, if you're good, right? Once you've kind of given that all away, there's like no really reason for them to show up to future calls. Another example is you can tease out 2 to 3 case studies and present them formally on the next call. So maybe the payment plan thing, you're like, I don't know if that really works for my business. This would work, right? So you could say, hey, we'll go over scripting of this in a second, but you could say, hey, I'm going to cover 2 or 3 case studies in depth, where they started, etc., on the next call. Or you could say that you're going to come up with a financial ROI model for them. So in very complex enterprise sales, there's tons of books written about this. Like, I looked at enterprise sales books the other week, and one of the books was called Staying Ahead of the Prospect in the Sales Process, or something like that. And I was like, I know the whole thesis of the book is literally just this, right? And so you'll see this is a big thing that comes up again and again and again. And what's key is just always staying a step ahead and having a reason to show up to the next call beyond come to this next call with a decision, which is going to bring me to the next point, which is framing that follow-up to diffuse the pressure, okay? So this is the number one mistake with prospects who ghost follow-ups, is the call is framed as a come to that next call with a decision, okay? Now, it could be explicit. Like, I've literally heard closers say, hey, come to that next call with a decision. But more often than not, it's implied. And so what I mean by that is, by default, if you do not have any other reasons for them to show up to the follow-up call, they think the only reason to show up is to tell you yes. So if their answer is not a yes, or even not yet, more likely, a lot of times, they'll cancel or delay, and then now you're chasing. Does that make sense? So this gets you out of chasing if you can always have, again, open loops and reasons for them to show up, and you frame it the right way to make sure, hey, you don't have to come to this call with a decision. So I'm going to repeat this. If you do not have any reasons for them to show up to the call, it defaults to the only reason to show up is to tell you yes. Why else would they show up? So again, if their answer is not a yes or a not yet, they cancel or delay. So this is why I make a proactive effort to, number one, open some loops, and number two, tell them, don't even come to the call with a decision. I know this is counterintuitive, because if you've seen what I've done before in my previous videos, I'm very, very key on like getting them sold. And like I did in that previous scripting, it's like, hey, if you wake up tomorrow feeling the same exact way you feel right now, then you're 100% moving forward, right? I have to press them like that in the beginning of the close because I need to see if they're actually sold. But then as we get to scheduling the follow-up, I kind of reel it back and give them permission that, hey, like, okay, great, I'm glad you're feeling really good about this. You don't have to come to the call with a decision, because right now, as that stands for me, I don't even feel like you really have all the information. So let's cover your questions tomorrow. And then tomorrow, once you have all the information, then we can make a decision of this is a now thing or a later thing. No worries other way. So that was a little bit of scripting there. Let's get into some official stuff. So this will really help, right? So here's kind of how it would sound. You're the salesperson. You say, awesome, let's get that call booked for tomorrow. You schedule a time. Okay. Hey, one last thing. I'll go over to you tomorrow 2 specific case studies of clients in your industry, exactly where we started with them, what we implemented, and what their ROI was and what time frame. Plus, I'll talk about some payment options that'll make it easier to break up. Okay, so I still have a lot to cover with you, so don't feel like you have to come to this next call with a decision. All I want you to do is come to this call with questions. Then we'll cover your questions and the rest of the information that I have, and then we can see what's the best decision for you, whether that's a now thing or a later thing. I'm good either way. Does that sound good? All right. So you can come up with some variations with this, but the key is I'm basically removing any sort of vibe of come to the call with the decision. So if you see this, number one, I'm opening the loops of the 2 specific case studies, right? I also opened the loop of some payments. And then I said, what I usually always say is like, hey, look, I know we covered all your questions on this call, but usually what happens is you get off this call and you're going to think of some stuff that you wish you would ask, or you kind of forgot to ask that you want to ask. So look, don't even feel like you have to make a decision after this call. All I want you to do is when those questions come up, write down those questions. On the next call, we'll cover the case studies, the payment terms, and then we'll figure out the rest of those questions that you have. And then that way, when you have all the information, then you can make a decision. But don't even worry about making it before the call, because I feel like we haven't even really finished our talk yet. Something like that, right? It really, really helps.